Hello, loves. How are you? So, we're going to dive into more around the codependent to interdependent topic. I've been sitting with this, and there is so much around this. I do believe this is going to unfold to be sort of a series of videos, of course. And today I want to talk to you about some of the ways that we can identify what's codependent and what's interdependent, because I have also seen some people mistaking interdependence as codependence. And there's this deepening of just expecting people to be very independent, which, yes, we want to move into independence. But in order to grow and to continue to expand, it's also important to let ourselves receive support in interdependent and appropriate ways when needed, when guided, and also developing and harmonizing and strengthening interdependent relationships and ways of being our are how we can actually have healthy relationships, right? Because yes, we can get ultra independent, but that can also turn into a trauma response where we're not actually getting support and assistance when we need it, right? And so there's lots that goes into this, right? Because then you have the other side where people are perfectly capable of doing something, but they're scared or they've never had to get pushed out of their comfort zone. And so they want to depend on others to do that for them. And that's very codependent. So there's a lot with these topics, but I wanted to address that, right? So part of unraveling out of the codependence is allowing ourselves to become more independent, right? And then developing interdependent skills, because a lot of times these codependent behaviors are in our families and with people that we love and in our society in general, right? So if we were to completely eradicate everything that was codependent in one shot, there would be nothing left, right? Well, at least at that initial point, right? But as we're developing interdependent skills, it becomes easier to replace the codependency with the interdependence. And this is such a nice bridge. Yes, you might need breaks in your relationships. You might need space and grace to go through the transformation process. But ultimately, this is about transforming your ways of being, coming into relationships in healthy ways. And this actually, without you really doing anything but being yourself, you're offering the opportunity for others to actually evolve and transform and become more interdependent if they choose to participate in a relationship with you in those ways, right? Okay. So, in your codependent types of relationships, you may find that people are capable of doing something, but they're choosing not to, and they're trying to get other people to do their things for them, or they don't want to do it, or they're avoiding it. And then on the other side, the codependent person will step in and do it for them or take over, be kind of like the savior, right? So we have like that victim and savior dynamic kind of going on. And there's difference there's a difference in receiving help from others when you are in an interdependent energy. Okay. And what I mean by this is like the interdependent person is taking personal responsibility, doing what they need to do for themselves, doing their part, stepping up, going forward with following the action steps, taking responsibility of what they're capable of doing. And then as they're going along that path of self-responsibility, they may hit a situation where they could use some support or assistance from others, right? This is completely different than codependence. This is actually asking for support. Within that support system, there's usually an exchange of reciprocity. And so, say if someone is supporting you, You know that you thank them or you're going to pay them back or whatever agreement you come up to that feels satisfying and like a positive exchange for both parties, right? Like they want to support you, they want to help you because they see how much you've been doing and how hard you've been working and that you've been taking that responsibility for yourself, right? Versus sitting back, sort of blaming everybody and expecting things to be handed to you or going into victim mode complaining about how you can't get anything done, right? There's two very different energies, right? So you've done what you can do within your independency, right? Like you're stepping up, you're taking the steps that you can, and then you're also not going into a trauma response, you're actually opening up to interdependence by seeking, asking for support in appropriate situations and in appropriate ways, right? And usually, what you'll find is if you truly do require that support, it will be available. And if it's not available yet, then there's probably some more for you to kind of look into or work with in on your own. And part of it could be unraveling a trauma response or a fear of actually being supported, right? So these types of situations can go pretty deep, but we want to start by looking at what can I actually do for myself, right? But then also it's okay to receive support if I hit a wall and I've tried what I can, you know? And if you have a situation where you're working with someone or you have a relationship with someone where you've had a previous codependent dynamic, like I said, there may be a time where you need a little space while you're shoring up your own independence. But then as you come back into those dynamics, you can assess the situation in this manner. So if you have someone that you used to do things for, let's say, in the other side, you used to like do things that they were capable of doing, but they would tell you that they were scared to do it or it was too hard. And you would see that they were kind of frozen or stuck. So you would step in and sort of light the fire and do it for them. So in an interdependent connection, maybe what you would do is walk them through the steps, but then encourage them how to do it. Share with them a breakdown of how you might approach the situation, but let them take the reins, right? You can point them in the right direction, but encourage them that they have to take the uncomfortable steps forward. And ultimately, that is how they will learn. I also find it helpful because of a lot of the programming in our society in from the past. People are very capable, but they may have fears around trying to do something they've never done for the fear of being ridiculed or making a mistake or around the fears of not knowing how to do it. It can also just be helpful to really simply say to someone, it's okay if you don't know how to do it. You're trying something that you've never done before, but this is how you're going to learn. And once you do it, like at the beginning, it might take a little more work and a little more effort and energy because you are establishing learning something new. But once you break through that and you learn how to do it, now you're going to know how to do it. You're going to have the skills and it's going to become easier to do that next time. And it's also going to become easier when something new comes up next time to feel comfortable to go ahead and give yourself a shot, right? Jump in, give it a try. If you make a mistake, that's okay. Keep going, keep learning, ask for help, but at least give yourself the opportunity to take the step forward, right? So you can create a supportive, interdependent dynamic without actually doing it for them. And it sort of acts like a bridge for the dynamics, right? Now, what I suggest is that if you've been in a codependent relationship and you're moving into interdependence, that you actually take the space to kind of feel into situations, right? So I don't know about you, but for me, when I was super codependent, I actually would jump into doing things without giving it a lot of thought. I would say, oh, yeah, I can do that. And I would just jump into it and then kind of realize, like, whoa, that took way more of my energy, or it took me down a rabbit hole I didn't need to go down. So when I was in that energy before I really knew how to do the things I'm telling you, but I wanted to shift, I started giving myself the 24-hour rule. Now, obviously, this isn't going to work in every single case, but if I wasn't sure about what I wanted to do, or even if I kind of thought I knew which way it was going to go, but I really wanted to give myself the space and the grace to sit with the process, I would say, look it, I just need a little bit of space to see if this is something that is appropriate for me to do, if I can actually do it, and if it feels aligned, right? And then I would give it space and actually drop into this process of like, does this actually work for me? How does it feel? Are they able to do it on their own? If, and even if they're not, is this actually going to be supportive for me to get into? Do I have the capacity to do it? Does it feel aligned for me? X, Y, and Z. Do you know what I mean? So if you're ever in a position where you're uncertain, or you have someone where you previously had codependent dynamics, let them know, like, look at, I'm trying to really grow out of this process. I still love you. I still want to support you, but I really need to kind of start to understand what's right for me first, right? And you take those processes and you give yourself the space to really think about it, right? Some people might be resistant to it at first. That's okay. They're used to what they used to know. And your changing is going to be uncomfortable for them too. That's okay. And that part is actually not your responsibility, my loves. You just go, you speak respectfully, you speak your truth, and then you allow them to feel what they feel. Okay. If they don't like it, if they're mad, if they're upset, just give them space to process their feelings. Okay. That'll be a deeper opportunity for you to let that go and not be responsible for their feelings. Right. And also respecting your feelings, respecting their process, respect the fact that they might have emotions and a reaction to the changes. Okay. It doesn't mean you have to fix it. In fact, I encourage you not to. It means to give them the opportunity to work through that for themselves. Okay. Give yourself space and grace, give them space and grace, and just allow it to process. Okay. All right. This can happen in other ways, yes, like I said. So it also feels really important that in a codependent situation, people are projecting what they think you should do onto you, or you are projecting what you think they should do onto them. And that actually creates a lot of projection and discomfort. And it sort of creates a control dynamic instead of just supporting what it is that they want to do. Again, this goes back to you can offer suggestions, you can offer a perspective, but a very powerful interdependent practice is to share without attachment. Share it. Hey, this is what worked for me. I don't know if it'll resonate. I don't know if it'll actually work for you, but maybe you will find some value in my perspective. Maybe you'll like something within it. Maybe you'll tweak it. Maybe you'll change it. Maybe you won't like it at all, but now you'll know that, right? And then let it go. Give them the space again to sort through it. And just choose what you participate in or not. So if they choose something that you wouldn't do, let them do it, right? Remember, you're giving yourself that space and grace to choose what you participate in. Depending on the circumstances, it doesn't mean you don't have a relationship with this person because they're doing something you don't agree with. It means you let them process and do and make their decisions so that they can learn what they need to learn. Well, you are over here doing what you need to do to focus on your processes, right? You see, this is why that space and grace and interdependence is important Because if you would have stayed in the codependent energies, you would have tried to help them in a situation that you want nothing to do with. You would have been angry at them because they're doing not doing what you want. They'd be angry at you because you're trying to tell them what to do. And nobody is actually truly where they're meant to be because you're all trying to control things or not take personal responsibility. You see what I mean? So when I was in this process, it's so important that you're building that self-trust, right? Building trust with yourself so that you can really choose what you participate in. And you can do it without judgment. You can really just bring the focus back to what is supportive for you, which ultimately is truly the only way you can support another person anyway. So, in not participating, that might be the perfect support that you're offering for that person. Okay. But another tool that I was using when I was going through this was this triangle that my higher self helped me download. You guys have heard of the victim, savior, perpetrator triangle, right? So my higher self had me start focusing on how I could come out of that triangle and still participate in my relationships. And I started to focus on self-love, personal responsibility, and healthy boundaries. And the self love replaced the victim part of the triangle. The healthy boundaries replaced the perpetrator part of the triangle. And the personal responsibility replaced the savior. Okay. I'm going to do a video specifically around this because I do have a couple diagrams that I prepared. And so I want to create a video specifically for that. But I wanted to touch in on it today and sort of give you those processes to think about, right? Because many of us have heard of the victim, savior, perpetrator, right? So now you can start thinking about the deepening of how you can approach those situations where you're unraveling out of the codependence and come into your space and grace of processing. And if you want something to apply, am I in self love? Am I utilizing healthy boundaries? Am I taking personal responsibility for my own happiness? Right. And once you can answer those, now how can I apply that to my relationships? Right. And so this takes me to one last thing that I wanted to share because we were talking about this deepening of the self-trust, right? And we're talking about relationships, trust, and reciprocity. Building that trust with yourself, loving yourself is how you love others more. Respecting yourself more is how you can respect others more. And the list goes on because whatever we're doing for ourselves is now how we can hold space with and for others. Okay. So I created and recorded a 45-minute trust and reciprocity guided meditative energy session. And I'm going to drop that in the pinned comment. This session went deep into helping to unravel and dissolve any of the energies within your system or the ancestral system that were connected to seeds of self-doubt. Right? Places and spaces where we gave our power over to others, or we were in a position where we had authority over us. And so we had to sort of ignore our own truth, sort of self betray what we thought was true in order to survive. Sometimes it could have been an abusive situation. Sometimes it could have just been, like I said, an authoritarian type of situation, a parent, a boss, military, teacher, whatever have you, right? Where you sort of had to put your truth on the back burner in order to make it to the next steps and stages. We honor that you survived and that the ancestors survived. But now we want to unravel and dissolve out of that. So, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, you can tap back into that true essence and trust within yourself, trusting your body, trusting your emotions, trusting your intuition, trusting yourself, so that as you strengthen that process, of that self-trust. This is Lucky, my male cat. He came to say hi. As you're trusting yourself, right? It becomes easier then to open up and share in reciprocity with others, right? And creating those interdependent dynamics in a way that is healthy because you're trusting yourself, you're open to sharing and reciprocity in ways that support you and the other person, right? So if you would like to tap into that and try it out, I'm going to drop it in the pinned comments with the rest of my information. If you're new here and you don't really know my work yet, I do have a playlist of free meditative sessions on my other channel, but I'll drop that here so you can check into that and sort of see the style and feel into the energy of what I do. I'm so grateful to be here with you. I'm excited to share these very, very important topics and dynamics and energies with you. I would love to hear from you in the comments. Let me know if this is resonating. Let me know if you have any specific topics or questions or scenarios that you would like some support with around these codependent to interdependent dynamics. And let's see what we co-create here on this channel. All right, my loves, sending you so much love and reciprocity and thanks for your presence here. And I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll see you soon. Much love. Take care.